hit record here and then officially welcome you to Balls in Your Face Marketing. Jim, thank you so much for making the time to speak with me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. So there's a lot that I actually hope to accomplish with this call, so let me dive right in. I'm going to start with a little bit of a bio because it's really an inspiring story for young entrepreneurs. Jim started his career, I believe, straight out of high school. Is that right? Like selling?
No, I started it while I was in university.
While you were in university, okay. And you were selling electronics out of the trunk of your car to the tune of $350 million. At which point, is that right?
Well, I started, you're not selling $350 million the first time, but that's the business I started, and I grew it to selling $350 million eventually. That's correct.
Right. Amazing. And for context too, what years were those?
Well, I started in 1980, and it took me almost 25 years to build it up to 350 million in sales. And then I sold that company, and I ran the company that bought mine from 800 million to $2 billion.
That's right, Synex.
And Synex, and there's lots of stories and bumps along the road. I mean, I originally bought a computer because I needed one to design circuit boards. Got a better deal if I bought two of them, sold one of them, and then someone else wanted one, someone else wanted a printer. So that's how I got into buying and selling. But I actually still design circuit boards, and I split that company into a different company, and that company's still in business today.
Right. Okay. So, and in addition to that, you've written two books, Time Leadership, Using the Secrets of Leadership for Time Management, and then more recently, 0 to 2 billion, the marketing and branding story behind the growth. And you are currently the CEO of Dan B Appliances.
That's correct.
Great. So let me try to set the stage here about what I hope to talk about. And provide a little bit of context. I had the great privilege of seeing you speak as a panelist several weeks back at the Globe and Mail Small Business Summit. At that event, there were a couple of people like yourself who stood out for me for various reasons. I had the great opportunity to interview Ishfar Prashad last week. Very nice gentleman, and I think hopefully I did a good job in that episode explaining what kind of stood out about him to me. What my observation of you is this: aside from your accomplishments, aside from what was an apparent fierce intelligence and quick wit, I got the impression of somebody who is very sincerely and genuinely enjoys teaching and mentoring a younger generation. Is that a fair observation?
That is a fair observation. Absolutely. It's one of the things I love doing.
You love to do, right? And I definitely picked up on that. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is I wanted this episode to be a bit of a continuation of the last episode that we did, which was really about mindset. And one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of draw attention to that is that I want to kind of push back against a sort of a societal knee-jerk reaction against the successful and wealthy, this sort of attitude that people sometimes have of the 1% or 5% or 10%, wherever you fit in, that it's somehow this sort of insiders club of cynical money hoarding, individuals, when in fact, I think your desire to share and impart your wisdom and mentor people is quite a common progression for successful entrepreneurs. What are your thoughts on that?
I certainly would hope that it is. I think as in any group, there are good people and there's bad people, and I think that it tends to be the bad people that give the good people a bad name, and I think focusing more around good people is a great idea. I think the other thing is there's a jealousy that sometimes means people don't like a certain segment of the population, but with success comes a responsibility, and successful people often do take that success and the responsibility comes with that.
Right, and so this is why I think this relates very much to mindset, the mindset of success. That exactly, that this idea that sometimes people have, that in order to be successful, you need to be ruthless, you need to be a bit of a dick, right? That in fact, because that's in a way what I'm hoping to achieve with this show is to help people, teach people, mentor people. And this is, my agency, is less than a year old. Do you think maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse in doing this?
I actually don't think so. I mean, one of the Danby Appliances tagline is "Do the right thing," and that is the easiest way to tell everybody what's the manual. Because you could look in the manual for the rule book. How do you do something? How do you treat your coworker? Well, do the right thing. That really encapsulates it all. And starting your business with the right culture of always over delivering a little bit, always being the nice person, I think it will get you miles and miles more than simply being the ruthless hit and run. And a hit and run would be you might be able to get a contract that's a one-time contract and overcharge someone and not do a good job. And yeah, that's great. You got one contract. But we're in the world of social media. We're in the world of 6 degrees of separation, and that's going to come around to bite you. So there's good non-altruistic business reasons to simply not be a jerk in business.
Yeah, no, and there's again, I think it's important for people to see this, and there's a lot of consistency in what you're saying with what Ishvar, in fact, was saying the other day, that at the end of the day, our integrity is all we really have as individuals. And to your point about, doing good in business is good for business. Something that we've often said on the show is that people buy from people who they know, like, and trust. And so exactly that you need to, I think, behave honorably and exactly under promise, over deliver. That has a long-term benefit, and I certainly believe that, and I'm hopeful that gets achieved through what I'm trying to do here.
Well, I have the good fortune of I don't really need to work. I
Right.
love to work, and so I do work. But one of my rules, I don't actually do business with people I don't like.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a screen. And 9 times out of 10, like, it's come back to bite me when I end up doing business with someone I don't like. Sure enough, it bites me. So I just
Right.
simply don't do business with people I don't like.
Right. And yeah, no, I agree with that model wholeheartedly. So why don't you tell us a bit about your books and the philosophies behind them, and what it is that you hope to impart to a younger generation of entrepreneurs?
Well, the first book is on time management. I wrote it many years ago, at least more than a decade ago. And I was growing my business at a very fast rate, and I personally had a time management problem. And because I mean, driving home and I'd say, oh, darn, I forgot to call this person. I couldn't get to sleep. I get up in the night. I was just stressed. So the way I solve problems is I study. So I went and read every book, took every course, research. And as I'm doing it, I take a bunch of notes, and then I get passionate about it. And I came back and I started delivering time management seminars to all of my staff, because time is the only thing that you have in a company as well. That's the biggest expense, is your overhead, is your payroll. So I started doing that. Then another friend wanted me to do it for his company, and then someone wanted me to do it for his company, and then eventually I published it as a book. But largely it is spitting back the stuff that you already know, that is available in all of the time management books and courses and everything that you could around time management. And I believe to be successful, you're talking to young entrepreneurs. Success is going to be the time choices that you make. Is this the most valuable way for you to spend a half hour, or is it better to spend half an hour doing something else? And the only thing we have is our hours, and there's no shortage of hours. We all have the same hours.
That's right. And there's something else that I think you just mentioned in that I think is another sort of observation of successful entrepreneurs, is what you had just said there of learn. Like that I think this is there's a difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, and anybody who has that growth mindset is also, in many regards, I would say, is a learning mindset, a desire to constantly teach yourself.
That's correct. As a matter of fact, I have a bunch of success habits, things that I believe help me become more successful. And one of my success habits is learn something new every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually don't go to bed without learning something new. And if I can't say what it was I learned today, then I basically go on the internet and learn something new. And I largely focus it around areas that I am trying to learn about, things that I think I might want to do. But, everyone has Google, and that, in 2 minutes, you're going to learn something new. It's easy.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, a lot of highly successful entrepreneurs will say that they read a book a day.
Absolutely. I don't read a book a day. I read about 2 or 3 a week.
Well, still probably way higher than the average. Amazing. So, again, what are your thoughts in terms of mindset? What is what are bad mindset habits? Or maybe let's also talk a bit about those struggles, the hardships, because sometimes maybe young entrepreneurs think that it's easy. They hear the quick story of what we just kind of ran through quickly. You were selling electronics out of your car, and poof, you're at $350 million. There's a lot of hustle and hard work in between.
Absolutely, there is. Like, I'm an overnight success. It just took 25 years to be successful.
That's right.
Someone said people tend to overestimate what they can accomplish in a day and underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade. And I absolutely believe that. A decade is a long time. You get a lot done. But when I come in on Saturday, I'm going to clean my office and do all my email and do this proposal and write this book and do this. I don't ever get done what I think I can accomplish in the day. But when I wake up at the end of a decade, we definitely can accomplish a lot. You talk in terms of mindsets. I talk in terms of habits. For me, a lot of it's around success habits. And one rule in habits is you can't stop a habit. You can only replace it. And you have good habits and you have bad habits. And so just make more of them good than bad. Another reason I like habits is willpower is actually limited. But if things are a habit, they require no willpower. So I suspect it didn't take you any willpower to brush your teeth this morning because you're habituated to it. If you didn't have a toothbrush, you'd be looking for a toothbrush. It's that habitual for you. And the more you can make some of your other habits like that, the more successful you can be, because habits multiply over time.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, what I've read on that is that it takes 40 times of doing something repeatedly, and at that point, then it becomes a habit.
That I've read that as well, and then I found that sometimes it's easy to fall off of habits. So you've got a habit, and then you fall off of the habit. So you have to continually work to get it back. One of my biggest tricks is linking one habit with another habit. So if I want to do some push-ups, then every time I go to brush my teeth, do some push-ups, because I'm going to brush my teeth anyways. It's easy to link one habit to another habit. And you can even link a chain of habits to, so every time I brush my teeth, I do 3 things. And I've got a huge number of things. Like, one simple habit I have is I never leave the room or the car without making sure it's a little cleaner or neater than I came in. That's really, really simple to do. It means I wipe the dashboard. It means I take the coffee cup out. It means it's pretty easy to do. And as a result, I don't have to spend an hour cleaning things.
Exactly. There you go. Clean up your room, bucko. So let me ask you something else, because I feel like now is a great period of time to be an entrepreneur. And the reason why I say that is that I feel like, I'm a baby buster. I'm in my early 40s. And I feel like, there was this time where it was just sort of this assumed, there was this path that it was assumed that people had to take. It was like you had to go to university. If you didn't get a degree, you couldn't, you just wouldn't be anything. And I've certainly come to the opinion that the university systems are starting to fail us a bit in terms of preparing youth for the real practical world, and that there's a lot of opportunities online. What do you think about that?
Well, see, I'm older than you are, and one of the things that I've noticed is certain things go up more in price than the price of inflation.
Mm-hmm.
And education is one of those things. So when I went to university, university was much cheaper, and what's happened is it's gotten proportionally hugely expensive. I and everyone always says, you know, the world's getting faster and faster. I happen to have an engineering degree, but it happens to be highly irrelevant because none of the stuff, I'm an electronics engineer, right? And so, or systems design. Well, you simply don't use the stuff that I learned on, because if
Right.
I were to design something on the stuff I learned on, you know, I see your guitars in the background. I could build you a guitar amp. It'd just be, you know, 8 times the size and a quarter of the quality of anything else you you have.
Yeah.
So I believe that formal education is sort of a proxy for people who finish. It's a proxy for people who can go with delayed gratification, but
Mm-hmm.
you can be highly successful without a formal education. And to some extent, when I hire people who have education, university education, my job is to break them of their university education.
Right.
Like the biggest one is people are trained to write long messages,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to train them to say, can you say that in one sentence?
Yeah.
You don't like, let's be shorter, don't be longer. But when you go to university, it's, oh, we need a 2,000 word essay. I don't want a 2,000 word essay. Give me a 200 word.
Yeah. No, you're right. You also just dropped something there that I think is very instructive for people, as far as I'm concerned. To me, it is almost the number one marker for me of intelligence, and that is delayed gratification.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever heard about that, the marshmallow test?
Oh, of course, the marshmallow test is a great test, but we tend to hold people up on pedestals that delay gratification, but it is a huge part of success. And it partly goes with the, you have a listener group that are young entrepreneurs trying to start up, and they're going to go through hard times. It's the going through the hard times that make it, when you're through those, the good times are better. And most of that's about delayed gratification. So it's the stories about, I had to sleep in my car outside the trade show because I couldn't afford the hotel room. That's the story, but it's delayed gratification. It worked out in the end.
Right. You must have had, there must, again, going back to, and I think your point about habits versus mindset is very, is a great one. But obviously, you mean, there must have been some belief or faith in yourself that drove you to do that, made you willing to make those types of sacrifices.
Well, part of it is I've always been very long-term, and I'm not sure why that is. Some of it's Puritan work ethic. I believe in work. I believe in work ethic, and then I try to figure out what are my hacks to make it easier. And actually, a podcast is one of my time management techniques, and that is to use the power of while. What can I do while I am doing something else?
Mm-hmm.
So I drove back from Ottawa. Yes, I drove to Ottawa because Ottawa is sort of a pregnant distance. You can't really, by the time I drive to the airport for an hour, sit for an hour and 20 minutes, take a flight for an hour, get a rental car, it takes me 4.5 hours, and I can drive in 5.5 hours. So I'm going to drive it, but I listen to podcasts. Mm-hmm. And it's the power of, and I do calls. So I had a series of calls. People knew to call me. I've got Bluetooth, and it was a good dual use of time. The other one I do is I do walking meetings. So if you want to meet with me, yeah, I'm happy to meet with you. Do you mind walking? I have a trail here. Wear decent shoes, and let's go for a walk. Gets me a little bit of exercise, gets us outside. One of my habits, I like to spend 20 minutes a day outside. And it's just the power of while.
Yeah, amazing. So as somebody who's successful in technology, and you alluded to the fact of how fast things are moving today. I guess my question is almost twofold. What are the enduring things that are truths that are kind of consistent and will always be the case? And what do you see the future looking like? That last one's maybe loaded.
So, yeah, the last one's loaded, but even the first one's slightly loaded. See, the challenge you have as an entrepreneur, you have to filter all information and all advice. So my advice, it may have worked for me in this time and whatever, but what I do think is enduring is relationship. And then what is different is how you build relationship. So building relationship may be that we shook hands once at a Global Mail Summit, then we did a Skype call or a Zoom call, and then we traded emails once in a while, and then I run into you at another show, and then, I mean, that's a perfect way to build a relationship. Social media, LinkedIn connections, I'm big on LinkedIn, you follow some Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And so keeping those relationships, I think is an enduring thing, because in the end, people do business with people, and people can help people, whether that means buying from you or helping you in some other way, referring you to other people who can help or buy from you.
Yeah, and that's certainly been my experience too, that you never know where opportunities are going to come from. It's happened for me lots of times. I've met somebody, talked to them, didn't hear from them for years, and then all of a sudden something comes back. So again, yeah, that power of relationships and the power of impressions is important, I think, for people to learn and pick up on.
And then as far as trends and what the future holds, I believe that commerce is going to be more and more online. We're ordering more and more online. That's a trend, which means all of a sudden delivery becomes important. So you'll see that as a trend as well, that delivery becomes that. Video is definitely a trend. You will no longer be asked if you mind being on video, because there's so many video cameras around that you are going to be on video. You are also going to be tracked. So Google is going to know that you and I were within proximity of each other at this time or that time. And so proximity, and then that means there's going to be directed marketing. That can cause us actually to narrow our view, because if people identify me and say, oh, this guy doesn't do hockey, then all of a sudden, you don't get channeled that way. Or if I remember early days of targeting, I would go on, I ordered a comic book for a nephew, and next thing you know, Amazon thought, oh, I must be a 14-year-old boy that wants Superman comics every time I order from Amazon. So, but we are going to be tracked. We're going to be profiled more and more. I think the speed will continue to increase. I personally am actually looking forward to self-driving cars. I think they will be safer. My mom just lost her license, and my hope is by the time it's time for me to lose my license, I will still have a car, because I can have a self-driving car, and that's just going to be the way it is.
Yeah. I think they're saying that's about, they're estimating roughly 10 years out, and somewhere in that range. And what I wondered though is, what I'm not sure about is, will we own our own self-driving car, or will the manufacturers kind of become the Ubers and you just call the car?
And that I do not know. And some people are violently opposed to not owning their own. I actually would look forward to it. I actually think we have a kind of a strange society where I have to own my own lawnmower, which I use for 40 minutes a week, and the guy next door has to own his lawnmower, which he uses 40 minutes. Like, I believe more in the sharing economy. But I don't know whether I do actually like having my own car. I just told you I drove to Ottawa. Well, one of the other advantages, I like having my own car, because that way it actually has my stuff in it, right? And I know where my stuff is. And so maybe, so I do not know exactly what the future will be, but it definitely will come and it will change. And I think part of the key to success is to not quit learning about this new stuff, because it is limiting, and you end up. I mean, I am a tech guy, and yet sometimes I even notice myself. I mean, I'm not an Instagrammer, and why is that, right? I'm a blogger. Well, gee, that's kind of old school, like, and so it tends to, you have to move with the times. And I notice my mom, she doesn't use Uber because she doesn't have a smartphone. Like it's just that's the way it is.
Yeah, yeah. I think I suspect that that has to do with the fact that a lot of these technologies are just so new that for that generation who grew up with nothing, right? Like there was no sort of segue. They didn't adapt themselves to evolving technology. So I suspect that as we grow up and we've been using smartphones and we get to sort of evolve with them. So I think that sort of disassociation with those things will get smaller and smaller all the time.
Well, I think the other thing that some people do is they try to stop technology. And you can say, self-driving car killed a woman. I get it, really sad. But the fact of the matter is people kill more. The time we're going to move to self-driving is when they're 10 times safer than us driving it. Then maybe we'll go to that. One funny story, I own Danby Appliances. We make bar fridges and freezers and wine coolers. And my grandfather said the refrigerator is the work of the devil. And the reason he said that is he owned an ice house. So he used to cut ice out of a pond, store it in a barn on sand, and then he would go around and deliver it to people to keep their food cold. But you can't stop. You can't stop it. Just like some states banned the automobile because someone got killed by an automobile at a time when 1,000 people were getting killed by horses.
Right.
But and so we can ban the self-driving car, and then and eventually it'll happen. I mean, you even see Uber, fairly recent example. Like there's cities that would not allow Uber, and I think there might even still be some, but within 5 years, we're gonna laugh at that to say, I can't believe that nobody would allow that, right?
Yeah, no, I mean the genie's out of the bottle on a lot of this stuff, and exactly, when we're talking about self-driving cars and so on, we're talking about the evolution of artificial intelligence, and I think people have this is a very sort of misunderstood, or people aren't quite clear about where does that stand, and certainly there's a long way to go with it, but what we've certainly seen so far, what I've seen with it is that AI, it's very chunky at first when it starts to learn something, but once it masters it, it's unstoppable, right?
Well, exactly. And we used to make fun of Siri or
Right.
Siri type or drag and dictate. Like, and now you don't even think it's strange. Like, of course you're going to talk to your phone. Why wouldn't you talk to your phone? Call home, right? Well, at first it'd be call home. It would say, calling mom. No, I meant call home, and now it's gotten pretty darn good. Well, same thing with GPS. GPS used to say, turn left into the river. Now, my GPS knows its way around better than I do.
Oh yeah, no, I know, and it's predicting the traffic jams and all kinds of stuff. It's better and better.
Exactly. Saves me a lot of time, and it saves infrastructure a lot of time, because if it can divert traffic off of busy streets into non-busy streets, although we still have a massive traffic issue in this country that is daunting to solve, but needs to be addressed.
Yeah. Well, again, maybe I think this is where I do like where you're going with the sort of shared resources approach. Exactly. We'll need exactly when they get the sort of the Roomba of lawnmowers, and it just goes from door to door to door. It seems like a sensible model to me.
That's right. Absolutely.
So Jim, we're near the end of our time, and I do want to be respectful of your time. So thank you so much for coming on our show, sharing your wisdom. Any sort of last thoughts or words for our audience?
Nothing genius. Fail often, fail fast, fail cheap. That's how you succeed. I'm successful because I have more failures, and having a failure does not make you a failure. So don't be shy. Just do it.
Man, that's a good one. Yeah, exactly. That's certainly the way I see things. There is no such thing as losing. It's just learning.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.